Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Justin here to make a follow-up review to Space Sheriff Gavan, this time with its immediate sequel, Space Sheriff Sharivan. Introduced in the last couple episodes of Gavan, Iga Den, a nature-loving island boy who starts off on the wrong foot with Gavan, is injured by the Maku, and is taken to Planet Bird for healing. Then for the final battle with Gavan, he is designated as Sharivan, the new space sheriff to protect Earth against its newest threat, the Mado. Helping him is a young lady named Lily, also from the planet Bird, and they operate out of a ship called the Grand Berth. And since then, Den has left nature and now works as a motorcycle mechanic. Den has a distinct youth and charisma to him, and presence that he brings. Unlike Gavan, he has no experience as a space sheriff, but he has the drive to really make you care about the character. As introduced at the end of Gavan, he's about protecting nature and Earth, but he's not all sea shepherd extremist about it. He seems to have a generic love for everybody in a youthful sense. He's very friendly and caring and can have some funny moments as well. He shows well-rounded intelligence, and even before becoming a space sheriff, had some fighting skills or martial arts skills to further ease him into this role. The supporting cast is very generic, and they are pretty active in the story. Lily has a more active role than Mimi, and she is not as vulnerable as her. In a fight, she could handle her own to some degree, and she's actually active in car chase scenes. There is some tension between the two, but the relationship is mostly kept professional. Now that Den has a job, unfortunately his duties as Sharivan don't really seem to negatively affect it in the way that Gavan did when he was working at at a horse stable and losing pay because he had to take some time off work. Unfortunately, it's not a reoccurring gag, but I guess you don't want to repeat what you did the first time as well. The villains work pretty good as well, but are more or less the same gimmick as the Maku with a statue guy in a chair and all that. But there are some special guests like Soga Machiko as a Monster of the Week as she was in Gavan. But I felt Den has some distinct development which Retsu and Gavan didn't have since Den was coming into this more with a fresh start. And you have those opportunities because of that. Plus, Den was born and raised on Earth, so he has more of a deeper connection on why he wants to protect it as opposed to just, being a job. The story will have some good plot twists, and there are some subplots which do get explored and developed over time, such as the ancestry of Den, which I thought was a pretty decent story. Other characters were introduced. I thought some of the people who helped Den were actually pretty cool, like Helen. Anyway, that's all I can share without giving spoilers, so I give the story and characters a 7.75 out of 10. The approach to the style of the action is pretty much the same as Gavan. There is something of a parkour-like feel of the movement. I really like how Den does these somersaults to escape from his enemies and is angled excellently with the cameras. With Sharivan, he is more reliant on his firearms, and the sequences using it are pretty cool. And the formula and pace is still the same as Gavan. At the last moment, the Mado will transform the dimension to make the monster stronger and all that. Also, the Grand Berth transformed to a robot, and it had a very bland and boring design. Nothing as distinct as the dragon that Gavan had, and I thought the robot from that looked too vulnerable to attack. So, because of the mech battles, I have to lower the score from Gavan to a 7.25, but the generic hand-to-hand combat in and out of the suit is still pretty exciting. It's just the mech battle was just really boring to me. The music isn't as disco-y as Gavan, and it's more of an 80s rock kind of feel mixed with some enka. The song isn't exactly as masculine, but tells the story of a youth of his generation at that time. I mean, Gavan was in his mid-20s while Den is supposed to be barely 20, so those 5 years or so between them could have a gap of, let's say, distinct kind of music that defines them. The lyrics of the opening song are still about a boy becoming a man and all that, so I guess it works. The background is still mostly the same, but more reliant on orchestral chords as opposed to funky beats. So I still give the music a 10 out of 10. Once again, the series does slightly advance a relatively new genre at the time, but still shares some of the same flaws. Like, instead of using a ship to go off to save his kidnapped friends, he takes his Jeep. Okay, it's a nice Jeep, but you want to motor surf like in Surf Ninjas, but you don't want to get stuck in traffic when you're on your way to save the world, do you? The design of the suit being red does make it more fresh and not as weary and teary as the gray look of Gavan, and it does have an 80s kind of feel to it. I thought Gavan, even as an 80s show, felt a little 70s at the time, But this show does a great job of upgrading it with the right cast and the right design. I say once you finish Gavan, immediately check out this series. Also, one returning character is Sookie Cochino, who was also in Gavan. He's still obsessed with chasing with UFOs and all that, and he thinks he can get a girlfriend. But it's kind of funny that the actor who plays him, he's also famous for playing a police officer in one of my favorite J-dramas, Kinpachi Sensei, which I feel I need a review at some point later in time, but I just don't know how to approach it right now. But, I just went off on a tangent, so I'll finish this review and give Space Sheriff Sharivan an 8.2 out of 10. And next week, look forward to my next review, Space Sheriff Shider, which is also the sequel to the series, and was also part of VR Troopers. Alright, and I'll get into that next week. See you later.